So I'll be the person who will be like the trainer for SAP IAG. So for this particular course, just a quick intro about myself. Like I'm Sarvesh, and like I carry close to around like 13 years of experience in SAP. So this is my personal website. Alongside of IAG, like I've also extensively worked on SAP, other modules of SAP on SAP GRC and on SAP ACS and on SAP ABAP. And I'm also expertised in SAP Analytics on cloud. And like I work along with Suresh in Techbrainz, and I also run my own firm in Bangalore. And before that, like I was working for a couple of other MNCs, and since 2017, like I'm been into entrepreneurship as a whole. So now coming back to this particular session on SAP IAG. So like, so this being a demo session, so like I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. So like we will have a first 30 minutes of our discussion, just like all like we are gonna cover as a part of this particular session, and what and all you can expect from the session. So that's what we are going to start with. And then subsequently, after 30 minutes, you may have lots of questions or queries about the session. And I would like to take up those questions for rest of the 30 minutes. Okay, so let's get into this. So what we are going to basically cover. So we are going to start our discussion from introduction SAP IAG, meaning like SAP IAG, as you are aware, I will just take a few minutes, and there is like some
Yes, who is this? I'm sorry, Vivo 1210. Could you please mute yourself? Thank
yeah,
you.
I'm just muting Suresh. Okay. So like what we are going to discuss is like we are going to start with the introduction to SAP BTP because like IAG is a component or its application which is residing in cloud exclusively in BTP platform. So if we want to understand IAG, we need to first and foremost understand what is BTP, how the security and authorization from BTP works. What does the BTP consist of? What is the difference between the platform user and the business user? What is meant by sub account, global account? What is meant by entitlement? What is meant by services and instances? How the concept of authorization works in BTP? And more importantly, the identity management, the complete module of identity management, how it works in BTP is what we are going to start with the session. And then subsequently, we are also going to touch base on how this cloud journey or how the cloud processes started in SAP, and where are we now, and exclusively on the BTP, like starting from how we can do the IAG subscription, meaning like we got a BTP access, and once we got the BTP access from there, like how we can set up the global account, how we can set up the sub accounts, then how to add our own component to it, then how to do the entitlement for IAG, then how to subscribe for IAG. All that is what like we are going to cover as a part of the second session. So after that, like we will jump on into the primary component of IAM or Identity Access Management, which comprises of three software. We are going to discuss on all these three applications because like IAG does not or cannot exist by itself. It requires another component called as IAS and IPS, which is Identity Authentication Services and uh, Identity Provisioning Services. So we would need, I got a message. Okay. So we would need the details of how the IPS and IAS works primarily before even starting IAG. So then in IAS, like we are going to see like what is meant by IDP or identity provider or like how the identity provider will work, and then subsequently like how we can define our own custom IDPs, and we are going to also see like how we can create our own custom IDPs using IAS, and then how we can integrate IAG with IAS. So like how we can make identity authentication services as a primary IDP, and how we can integrate with IAS is what we are going to study. And then subsequently, IAG is a tool which is capable of doing both on-premise and cloud provisioning. So if it is a cloud-to-cloud provisioning, we would need an integration layer between one cloud application to other cloud application. In our existing setup or the scenario, we are going to see from IAG how we can go ahead and provision for SAC, SAP Analytics on Cloud. SAP Analytics on Cloud is also a cloud application, and IAG is also a cloud application. So if we want to integrate cloud application to cloud application, it can happen only through IPS or identity provisioning services. So we'll have a complete understanding of how the concept of identity provisioning services works. More importantly, how to create IPS proxy, why we need IPS proxy, which is basically like our first use case we are going to see is on SAC, and like how to create that all is what we are going to study. And after that, we will come to the detailing of IAG as a whole. And we will start with the master data setup in the IAG, like what are all the different master data which we need to do when we are going to do with access certification, access analysis, access request, privilege access management, role designing, all that, like what are all the master data which is required. And then like what are all the different synchronization job. Like if you guys are from access control, you might be knowing already the repository sync concept. Something very similar to that exists in IAG also, and we are going to study about that. And then subsequently, we will also see like how the concept of customization, what are all the possible options of customizations we have in IAG. So we are going to study a bit about that. Then we will get into the actual topic, like how the concept of access risk works in IAG, like how to create our own master data in IAG when pertaining to rule set, like what are all the options to upload the rule set functions, and how the concept of cross-system risk analysis works, because IAG is a system which we have, like we can have SuccessFactors, we can have Ariba, we can have Concur, and we can have SAC. And we can create a user with a combination of all of this by using the concept of business role. And when we do that, we can also establish a cross-system risk analysis. So we can perform a cross-system risk analysis, and we'll see like how the cross-system risk analysis can work. It also has a capability of providing the remediation for the mitigation control and for the risk, what it can, what the tool will be providing. We'll also study, and where we will also understand the importance of risk score, like how to specify the risk score and how the concept of risk score works. It also can be used as a feeder for designing our roles in the future perspective. So that is also something which we will be also discussing. Once we have that item in place, the subsequently, like based on the risk analysis, we got to know that the roles in existing in the individual system is not working as desired. So then like how we can do the concept of entire role designing in IAG, which is very, very similar to that of like what we have in BRM, business role management, in SAP access control, something very similar to that. We are also going to discuss it in IAG in role designing. We'll understand like how to create a role, and what is meant by candidate roles, how to use candidate roles, how SAP IAG can propose candidate roles, from where we can define our business roles. And again, what are all the functions? Since IAG is a cloud application, it also has some of the limitations, like there are few amount of customizations which is not possible. What are all the flexibilities access control or on-premise application can provide? So some of them are not possible in IAG. So we will also be learning about what are all the limitations when it comes to IAG, and how to overcome that limitation. Like what is something which we should propose to the customer, and what is something which we should not propose to customer. So we will be discussing about that as well. And then we will get into the access request, the main important concept. There again, the master data of access request, and how the business rule concept works in IAG, and like how we can, which is very similar to that of MSMP, what we already have in access control. So the same concept, like we are going to discuss it here, but here it is called as a business rule, and business rule is one more service which is provided in BTP, and IAG utilizes that particular services in order to carry out the provisioning. Then we will also understand workflow customization, mainly like what are all the different stages we can have, what are all the different path we can have, how to set up these stages and how to set up this path, and so on. And finally, like we will also see like how the provisioning works in IAG, where we will also see like if there is a issue, how to troubleshoot it, what are the different things which we need to consider when we are encountering the request is getting into an error state. We'll be discussing on that. Then we will also move on to the access certification side of it, mainly like something very similar to that of what we have in existing SAP GRC access control, UR and SOD, user access review and sensitive access review. So the same functionality, we also have it in IAG, and that is what is termed as access certification. So we will be also studying about like how the concept of access certification works. And then we will also get into the privilege access management. So the first topic is going to be on the access certification, and then we'll also get into the privilege access management, which is nothing but again a very similar functionality which exists in access control, EAM, emergency access management. In IAG, we call it as privilege access management. And like we will be also discussing about that in the session in detail. So this is what we will be discussing as a whole. And finally, we are going to see about how to use IAG as a bridge, meaning we don't want end users to log in into IAG, rather end users, if they want to use access control as it is, and we can leverage the concept of IAG bridge scenario to make IAG as a bridge between access control and the cloud application to carry out the provisioning. So that way, the end user can still go ahead and create an access request in GRC. But once access request gets created in GRC, subsequently the provision happens in IAG and it gets completed over there. So that's what like we are going to study as a whole in this particular topic. And how we are going to discuss, so we are going to discuss it in two different aspects. Like the first thing what we are going to discuss is we are going to discuss on the theoretical side of it. So the session, most of the time, it is going to happen over 2 consecutive days, Saturday and Sunday. So where the Saturday session predominantly will be on the theory, and the Sunday session will be predominantly on the practical. In the theory, like in each and every topic, like whatever I have said. So I will say like how we can achieve this from the tool perspective. What are all the different things over there, and then on the practical session, we'll be also seeing it in the system in live, starting from the very beginning. And I will just show like one of the use cases, like what we have this to know about, as I said, to know about IAG, we need to know about BTP. And to know about BTP, we should know about SAP Cloud History. So that's how we all start. So this will be my first and the foremost session, which I will be taking you. So because if you want to understand IAG, we should have a clear-cut knowledge of how the BTP works. And if you see any documentation of not only IAG, but any cloud applications, since the SAP cloud journey from 2012 to 2023 got different leap in it. So whenever like we go and check for any documentation, standard SAP documentation or any documentation which is available over internet, sometimes they use a word called as HCI or HANA Cloud Integration. Sometimes they use a word called as SCI or SAP Cloud Integration. What is the difference between HCI and SCI is also something which is very important, which we need to know. And they will be also using a terminology called as Cloud Foundry. They'll be using a terminology called as a Neo platform, and they will be also using the BTP ABAP. So we need to understand what is all this is all about. And then like they'll be also telling about regions, they'll be telling about tools, applications. Then they will also say there is a concept called as cloud connector. What is the use of this cloud connector? Then what is this global account, sub account? What is this platform user, application user? So to understand IAG, we need to know all this concept and how we can do the BTP login. That itself is a very big thing which we need to understand. And these are all like the first baby steps which we need to take before even getting into the IAG, because IAG is residing in BTP. So if we want to know IAG, then we need to know BTP. And of course, we should also know that before getting into IAG, we should know how the architecture of this entire thing is being structured. So that's where like I'll be taking you through the product which we are already familiar with the product like what we are going to see for the first time. For example, like we already know identity management or SAP IDM, which has been there since last 14 to 15 years from now. This product is already there, and like now the equivalent is what we call it as in the cloud, we call it as like IPS. And how IDM can integrate with IPS is one thing which we need to have a clear understanding. The same way, there is already a product out in market for on-premise application called as SAP GS Access Control. The same equivalent is what we have it in cloud, and that's where the IAG comes into the picture. And the same thing also goes, like we already know SSO, we have been using SSO for a while. And the same thing, the cloud equivalent is what we call it as IAS. So with the functionalities, what we know, we would like to understand the functionalities which we don't know, or like in the process of getting to know that. So that's how the training will be, where I will try to demystify the complete understanding of how this things works, and then subsequently like how to overcome that particular challenges or like the customer problems when it comes to a cloud. Because the main challenge what we have in cloud is there are many applications and there are many consultants who, unfortunately, like all of us at this point of time, we are in the transition state between SAP on-premise and cloud application. So like for example, I started my career way back in 2008 when there was no concept of SAP cloud existed. There was no concept of HANA existed. And if I see back my last 14 to 15 years in SAP, I have seen a tremendous transformation between on-premise and cloud application. Between 2009 to 2014, SAP's thought or SAP's roadmap was more into on-premise. And after the acquisition of SuccessFactor, Ariba, Concur, and all the applications, they're all the one similarities which we found is a cloud, all of them are cloud application. So now to stay top of the game and to stay in top or in the niche market, we should keep evolving our learning. And it is easy for us if we know the things which we know and how to correlate that with the things which we don't know. So all my training or all the examples, use cases, whatever I'm going to tell will be on the similar lines, where I'll be also trying to tell like what is the existing things which we have it in on-premise already, and how the concept of cloud works. So it all starts from the current business challenges and all the way like how to get the final IHE learning. And I'll also be taking you through like all these are like some of my examples, like how the concept works and how the typical IAG system needs to be built. So I'll go into the individual steps of like how to define a master data. For common master data, we need to do access control master data, we need to do role designing master data, we need to do. Then what are all the different combination configurations which we need to do? What are all the parameters? Like we have a parameters in access control. The same concept of application parameters, also configuration parameters, is what we call in access control. So here we call it as application parameters. So we have like how the individual application parameter works. Then what are all the different users we have, how to install how to download the users, how to upload the users. All that is also we are going to study. Then absolutely we'll be studying about the corresponding on-premise cloud integration. Then what is cloud connector, how to establish cloud connector, and so on. So then finally, we'll be also seeing like how to customize workflow, what are all the different workflow options we have. All this is what we are going to study. So finally, like coming on to the system. So the system which we will be using is the very recent version of IAG. The March release of IAG is what we are going to use. That's a very recent version of IAG which is available. And every 3 months once it goes for an upgrade, and we have upgraded very recent. Since it's a cloud product, SAP will upgrade themselves, and we will just get the notification that system got upgraded. We'll be using the very recent version of IAG. And for an on-premise, we are going to see two use cases. We will be seeing on S/4HANA 2022, which is again a very recent version of S/4HANA out in market. We will be seeing like how the IAG provisioning works in S/4HANA. And the GRC system, which we are going to use, is again the very recent version of GRC out in market, GRC 12.2 SP19. So that's a GRC system which we will be using it for this practice and for demo. So all the up-to-date recent application is what we are going to use. And when it comes to cloud applications, integration with cloud applications, we are going to see one use case, that is SAC. But I will be also speaking about how to do the same thing for Ariba, how to do the same thing for SuccessFactors, how to do the same thing for Concur and all other applications, because the logic remains the same. Everywhere we need to create IPS proxy only. It is just that the read and write transformation will get changed. And apart from that, all other things or rest of the things remain same. I'll be also speaking about that during my training. So I would like to take a pause and stop sharing my screen so that I can open up for questions and I can take up questions from now on.
So, hey, thanks for giving a good overview of what you're going to discuss, and also it's good that we are going to use the latest and greatest applications that we have so far. Yep. So, just a quick question. So, is IAG? So you mentioned that IAG will be part of BTP, right?
Yes.
And is it like a add-on service in BTP?
Yes, it's an application. It's like BTP has like 100+ applications and thousands of partner applications also can be hosted in BTP. So IAG is one of the SaaS or like software as a service application which is residing inside BTP. So if you want to use IAG, then you need to have a BTP subscription, and only through BTP subscription you can use IAG.
Okay, and is IPS and IAS are also services within BTP?
Yes, so within BTP, like IAG is one service, IPS and IAS combined together is one of the service called as Cloud Identity Services. So Cloud Identity Services is one service which we need to have in BTP, and the second service is IAG, or Identity Access Governance, Cloud Identity Access Governance. So these two are the services which we need to procure in BTP to use it.
Oh, okay. So both needs to be subscribed.
Yes.
Either it can be like a user base, or it can be like a
integration.
Like
correct, API based. Yes, and again, one more thing is if you buy IAG, you will get IPS and IAS for free. You don't need to pay anything for it because IAG cannot exist without IPS and IAS. So that's the reason it is already covered as a part of the wider IAG license.
Oh, okay. Got it. Understood. Yeah, that makes sense. Otherwise, if you're not using IAG, then it's going to be IAS and IPS, and that will be like a separate service.
Correct. Yes, exactly. Oh, and okay. That will be like that comes with the cost. But if you're using IAG, then definitely things can exist without IAG also. When you need IAG is basically when you want to have a access governance bit or the risk analysis bit. Without that, IPS and IAS itself is sufficient for all the other things.
Like, for like provisioning, IPS should be fine, and authentication IAS should be fine. Okay, only a risk analysis where IAG will come into picture.
Risk analysis and access request log, then again privilege access management is something very similar to that of like SU01. I already have it, and if I want better than SU01, I want one system where I can go and create a access request, do the risk analysis, complete everything, and finally do the provisioning. So it's like creating directly in SU01 is like creating directly in IAS and IPS. Whereas like creating through a proper channel is how the IAG works.
Oh, okay. Like the automation of creating these.
Yes.
Okay.
Naresh, I have one question for you. This is Syed, by the way. Many of the companies right now are using Azure or AWS as an cloud service.
Correct.
So they have they have a big presence with SAP, but
Correct.
still, they have chosen this. So how this thing will work with other AWS, Google, or Azure?
Got it. Great. Good question, Syed. I mean, like,
Thank you.
now, like how this BTP as a framework works is also on the same lines. So if I am going to go and purchase IAG, I will be purchasing IAG from SAP, meaning like I'll be subscribing for IAG, and where this IAG will be residing, it will be still residing in the same clouds of hyperscalers, whether it is like GCP or Azure or AWS. So it is still going to reside in the same hyperscaler systems only. But only thing is we no need to pay for the hyperscalers. We are just going to pay for BTP and for IAG, and SAP will internally pay them to them. And when you are doing an entitlement, or like whenever you are creating or subscribing this IAG service, you'll get to see an option from which hyperscalers you need to you would like to host. So whether it needs to be hosted in GCP, or whether it needs to be hosted in AWS, or whether it needs to be hosted in Azure, that we can select it when we are doing it. And also, like in few countries, we also have a limitations, or like we have a restriction. For example, if we are doing anything on GCC, Gulf countries, like 8 Gulf countries plus the wider GCC, then as per the recommendation by government of that particular countries, the data centers cannot be hosted outside Middle East. So in that case, SAP provide their own data centers, and the data will be hosted in their own data center. Same thing also goes to China. If we are purchasing anything, I mean, any companies who are using cloud services from China, like it needs to be hosted only by the hyperscaler of China, not outsiders. So in that case, Alibaba comes into the picture, and everything will get hosted in Alibaba. So it depends on the regions. That is also one of the important factor which is considered in BTP. Based on the specific regions, SAP will propose different hyperscalers, and whichever hyperscaler suits the best, we can select that particular hyperscaler, and we can go ahead and we can do the subscription.
Thank you so much. One last question.
Please.
So would you be providing any example when we are in the session where you will show us, like, okay, this is how it's going to get connected to AWS or integrate, or what do you call Azure? Because like I said, there are so many companies that I have worked, and they're all having a different cloud services. So would you be providing that?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I'll be providing it, but only one thing I would also like to tell is IAG or any applications which you are going to procure from BTP, it comes as something called as SaaS application, or software as a service application. Like when we want to have a detailed information on like how these things actually works on ground, it works on the concept of PAM, like it's like a PaaS application, like platform as a service, or like infrastructure as a service. But everything, whatever we are going to see from the BTP perspective, is more as a software as a service, where we are just going to host that software in GCP, or host that software in AWS, or host that software in Azure. But rest of all things, it's gonna be same. I'll be having detailed section of like, if we want to understand SAP Cloud, we also need to understand how this concept of cloud works, where I'll be telling like what are the different ways we can do it. But I'll be not able to show because it's completely something off the topic, but I can definitely have a separate session with you for that, but it does not cover as a part of the wider session, because the BTP framework is purely software as a service. That's the reason it's like platform is already there, and we will use this platform to subscribe or to buy any SaaS based applications, or to develop a SaaS.
Fair enough. Sounds good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, just to add to that, so I think so basically BTP in itself is like a platform as a service from SAP.
Correct.
And then when we activate, when we have BTP, like when we select BTP applications within BTP, then I think we have to choose either any of the cloud-based hyperscalers. and then host the BTP application. That's all. Like
Correct.
it's a front end for BTP for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then
Makes sense.
all the services that we license out, which is like IAG or any other cloud applications, that would be like a SaaS model. Is that correct? Is that
Yes,
correct?
absolutely.
My understanding? Okay.
Absolutely. Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions from anyone?
So when you say hands-on,
Mhm.
like you mentioned, Saturday would be a theoretical session, Sunday would be
Yes.
a hands-on session. So will the participants like us will also get access to these systems as well?
100%. 100%. You will also get access to the system, and you will also be. I'll be giving a few of the assignments, which I would also request you guys to complete. So definitely, like it will be a kind of, I mean, like in the session, it's going to be like 6 hours a week. Is what we are planning to have this session. And if it's like 6 hours in a week, then it's going to be like 3 hours of theory and 3 hours of practical. And then Monday to Friday, you guys will have at least, or like you can take some of your time during your working hours, or like in your leisure hours, so that whenever like I give an assignment, I would also request you guys to complete it, so that we can get the full utilization of this training. So that's how it has been structured, that Monday to Friday you can do all the things. Definitely you will encounter few issues. Saturday and Sunday I will answer those issues, and I will also proceed with the plan for that particular week. So that's how it works.
Yeah. And how soon are we going to start the sessions?
It can be as early as this Saturday, because like I already have one more batch which has been running, and the initial plan is to combine both the batches, and so it can be as early as Saturday.
And what would be the like time frame to complete this course?
Yes. So the time frame, the projected time frame is 45 to 50 hours. So it's gonna long for like 1.5 a month or 1.5 month. Approximately 6 weekends of viewers is what I would need. Weekends meaning Saturday and Sunday both day. Morning hours most preferred, good for learning. So morning hours is what would be the preference, and it's going to be like 3 hours on a Saturday and 3 hours on a Sunday, and it's going to be 6 hours a week. So that's how in 1.5 months, like we'll be able to target and complete it.
Yeah, sure. That sounds fair. So that's like in the morning IST hours, right?
Correct. Yes.
On Saturday morning IST and
Sunday morning IST. Yes.
Sunday morning IST. Okay. So so you'll be communicating the time.
Yes, I will be having a WhatsApp group where every week you'll be getting a Zoom meeting invite, and then subsequently I also have a Google Classroom where all the topics whatever I'm covering, the corresponding recordings will be available in that Google Classroom folder. I'll be also providing a lab access in the Google Classroom folder, and whatever the notes or the scratchbooks which I'm writing or which I'm using, the mind maps what I'm using, that also will be part of the Google Classroom folder. And more importantly, by end of this session, you will also carry away a cookbook of IAG, which I'll be also sharing with you all. That would be a kind of a facilitator for you to do any cloud IAG projects. So that is also one of the key takeaway of this particular training.
Okay. And like your cookbooks, does it involve like the architecture framework?
No, it is a step-by-step screenshot of how things works. I mean, it's
okay.
like a reference, a guide.
Reference guide.
Go
Okay.
to help.sap.com, you will not find any practical things. You will just find
Yeah.
go to here. So it's like instead of going there, screen is something which is attractive for everyone. So through screen, we can have a better guided procedure. So this cookbook is mainly meant for that.
Yeah.
That's
True.
That's awesome. That's good.
It's not like how to prepare a recipe, rather show the recipe.
Yeah. I think a practical way of looking at it. Yeah. That'll be more helpful. Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Awesome. Suresh, I think I'm done.
Guys, any other questions from anyone? Rahul, Pavan, Revant?
Hi, Sarvesh.
Hi,
One
Dev.
Yes, Revant.
one question, Sarvesh. We are already working on a GRC for many years. Why we have to switch to IAG? What is the market reach in IAG?
Good question, Revant. So, very good question. SAP's envision, if you see any last from 2020, I will take a benchmarking of 2020 because COVID is always take a benchmarking in recent days for everything. Now ChatGPT is a benchmarking, but before ChatGPT, COVID was a benchmark. So 2019, when Cristiano or like the present CEO of SAP took in charge. And main importantly, from the wider market perspective, cloud is going to be the future. And if you see any SAP's recent sales or like any SAP's recent material or anything you see on SAP, they speak about two things. First, they speak about cloud first. Second, they speak about sustainability. So these two are the key topics or the key points which every company speaks, and SAP to stay in the market, they also continue to speak on this only. And meaning the more amount of investment from SAP and in terms of the way things is going to work in the future, it's all going to be cloud. There is no roadmap of access control after 2027. So access control 12.2 version what we have, there is no roadmap of access control after 2027, meaning we may not expect the next version of access control coming up itself. So in that case, one point of time, access control 12.0 support will get stopped and people have to move to a better solution. And at this point of time, the better solution which SAP says is IAG. And so to stay in market, to stay on top of the market, we need to upgrade ourselves in cloud. And again, like if we know only ECC, it is not sufficient nowadays, right? Like we should also know S4HANA, because the concept of ECC is different, the concept of S4HANA is different, the concept of transactional application is different, the concept of Fiori application is different. So that's the main reason, Revant. Like, yes, access control is a great product. Like I personally love access control more than any other product in the world. But unfortunately, if we want to stay ahead of game, and if we want to follow the guidelines and the roadmap of SAP's thing, because we are all in SAP world and we need to upskill ourselves based on the guidelines suggested by SAP. And of course, there will be lots and lots and lots of customers who will be traveling from access control, or customer who will be traveling from who is looking for any provisioning application. IAG will be the one what SAP is going to be selling. So that way, there are going to be lots of projects for next 3 to 4 years on this space. And if we want to stay ahead of game and capture them, then we should learn IAG.
Thanks.
This is the future, right? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Evan.
Yeah,
My bad.
thanks.
Sorry.
No worries. One more follow-up question, Sarvesh, just for my understanding. IAG is a similar functionality what SAP GRC or AC is offering,
Correct.
but
Yes.
it will replace the entire stuff access control.
No. Okay, so two questions. I mean, like I will probably split this into two questions. IAG is not a equivalent of GRC, meaning IAG can be considered as an equivalent of access control, because GRC also has process control and risk management. And there are different cloud applications which is available for process control. Like there is something called as financial compliance. That is one more product or an add-on for process control. There is one more product called as privacy governance. That is a equivalent or add-on for the process control. That is also a cloud-based application. Again, there is one more product called as ETT, enterprise threat detection, which is equivalent for SAP risk management. So all these are like different cloud services which can be considered as an equivalent of the GRC, wider GRC portfolio. That is one side of it. The second side of it is in terms of this when Whether IAG has all the functionalities of access control, at this point of time, no, because IAG is still like 3.5 years old product. It is not that matured enough. It does not have all the functionalities what access control has, but to the greater extent, it covers almost most of the functionalities. Like you have access risk analysis, ARA component. IAG also has the ARA component. ARM component, IAG also has an ARM component. BRM component, IAG also has a BRM component, and EAM component, IAG also has a EAM component. But the way things works in IAG is a bit different than that of how it works in access control. That being said, even my first session, that's what my first thing, like I have like 5 points which people should consider when they're learning something new. One of the point is unlearn what we know and learn what we would like to know. If we come with the mindset of typical GRC consultants, then you may feel IAG is worthless. That product itself is waste. You may feel like that, but that may not be true, because cloud way of things works totally different than that of on-premise way of things. So that's the reason you need to unlearn something and you need to learn something new. So that's the way I'm going to also structure this training. But to answer your question, or to cut the long story short, IAG has almost all the functionalities what GRC access control has, but with some limitation. MSMP does not exist in IAG. Customization of each and every fields, it does not work that way. Can we do a WebDynpro enhancement or Fiori enhancement in IAG? We can't do. So there are some limitations, but most of the functionalities, it is going to be the same. Does it answer your question, Raymond? Hello, am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you are audible. Yep.
Suresh, many of the companies recently moved to GRC 12,
Correct.
right? I mean, and some of them are still trying to do that. I mean, to move to GRC 12. So, do you think, I mean, that they will make a switch again with this, or because I mean, I was looking at Indeed about IAG, and I didn't find any openings, any positions available. So many companies may not be familiar with it, or they have no idea about, I mean, whether this product even exists. So it might take another year, 6 months. I don't know how long it will take, but you know, once we complete our training, right? In order for us to be in the loop and to keep ourselves updated, what is your recommendation?
Yes. So the simplest recommendation is please follow me in LinkedIn. So because like, I almost keep writing about IAG every week. Every week Saturday I write about IAG. I most of the time SAP Center of Excellence team or like SAP team keep endorsing my article. So that way, like anything which is happening recently in IAG, I will be writing definitely a LinkedIn blog about that. So that's one thing. On terms of the wider market reach for IAG, at this point of time, I agree to your point. The market reach is not that great because of the fact, though like whatever we tell or whatever SAP tells cloud first or like cloud movement, still there is a significant amount of market resistance for cloud because cloud is not that stable. Cloud is not that matured enough at this point of time. SAP cloud, I mean. So it may take it will definitely not by next 6 months or 1 year. It's going to definitely take another 2-3 years for things to settle down, because now only the architectural side of it and everything is being stabilized, or it has been articulated in SAP in a proper way. So it's going to take definitely 2-3 years for customers to adopt to it and to transform to it. But definitely like the roadmap of SAP cloud is very clear, or the roadmap of moving towards cloud from SAP is very clear. From the wider leadership of SAP, it is pretty clear. So that way, cloud is going to be the future for SAP, and any customers who wishes to use SAP, ultimately they need to move towards cloud at one point of time. So that way, whatever you are learning, definitely it will not be wasted. But if you think that whether it's going to yield a very faster results, the answer is you are fast in the lab, meaning like the other people is going to learn after 3 years, but you might have already been learning, and you might be also already the experiencing and executing, or like you will have a knowledge. So you will be ahead of the game if you're learning IAG now.
Basically, as I like, just I'm working with a couple of customers where we are already started implementing IAG for the couple of clients from Europe and the US as well. And the thing is, since it is a cloud, and most of the customers are still using GRC 10, 12, and all, and just as SAP said that just they wanted to close all the on-premise as soon as possible. Okay, so currently most of the companies who is started implementing the IAG is using as a sidecar approach. Am I correct, Sarvesh?
Yes, yes, Suresh. Like that's the way it is. That's why, like, they will not say like stop using access control and start using IAG. Rather, they say start adopting towards cloud, and to adopt towards cloud, use IAG as a bridge, so that like people will get accustomed to the way like how things happens in IAG. The overall wider roadmap is to stop on premise and go more towards cloud. But this
Right.
is the
Like
transition.
like a Fiori, like just they have not completely closed
GUI.
the GUI screens,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Just
Right.
they have introduced first they have introduced with 12% of the Fiori screens. Then now it has increased to 37 or 42 something. Okay, slowly, yeah, just they'll be replacing the complete GUI, and the same way, just this is going to happen.
Right. Yeah. I mean, everything will not be will not
Right,
happen. Right.
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
they have to
everything will not be changed in overnight, because just if they change at one time, just they won't get the SAP consultants at all. So just
because
every business will be closed.
right, because many of the projects that I have done, I mean, either they are still on GRC 10 or 10.1, and they're still thinking about going to HANA, or they're still going towards GRC 12. So there are companies, already invested so much in SAP, so they're like, thinking about it. Whether we should keep up ourselves or wait till the last minute. So only 2 or 3 companies that I went to, they have a GRC 12,
Yeah.
and rest of them are still. So that was my concern, that if they just recently transitioned to 12, how soon they're going to jump into, or how soon they are ready to dish out more money for these things.
They have to. There is no other option. SAP is not giving any second option for
Yeah.
any of the customers. That see why most of the customers is not upgraded from the SAP the GRC 10 to 12 is because of the IAG.
Yeah,
Okay,
it could be.
so
It could
the
be. Yeah.
thing is, like, just if they invest on the GRC 12, and after a year or two, if they wanted to invest on IAG again, it will be a burden. So that
Right.
is why most of the customers are waiting that just whenever SAP says that was that we are not going to support the older versions, then just immediately they'll start implementing IAG.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and
Wonderful. Thank you.
moreover, SAP BTP is also like not
Right.
new or not recent anyways, right? We have a web ID being used by developers,
Right.
which is also part of the new environment within BTP, right?
Right.
And they are moving to the new cloud foundry environment where all these pieces are coming together. Yeah, I think the reason being one of the other reason being like they want to do a hyperscale, but they don't have the cloud data centers anywhere in the throughout, like not many in many regions. But the other hyperscalers have a lot of data centers in a lot of regions, and they want to scale. And if they have to do it, they have to do it this way by utilizing hyperscalers.
Yeah, actually, Vamsi, just the SAP is not more interested in the data centers, and they are more
Yeah,
interested to sell their products, because
applications.
yeah, we already having the AWS Azure and with, some other solution providers for the cloud. So just they are using that, and just they are implementing or deploying their applications on those clouds.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we go, maybe probably like Ravi was mentioning that, like maybe though they push it to 2027, that might go into like 2030, like we have like S/4HANA, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still in the next few years, yeah, this will be the thing.
Yeah. Yesterday,
They might.
I was speaking with one of my Europe client, and just he's saying that they wanted to. They doesn't know exactly, just what is BTP and all. And SAP said that, just go for BTP and all. They have implemented, but they are struggling now. Just he's asking that, just what to do. Okay. So that is how it is, if we change immediately from one platform to another platform. So that's
Yeah.
what, just they don't want to replace everything at one time.
And one of the things that happens to security, at least security team, would be like, usually whenever there is a new system like these red cloud systems, bases want to pitch in and do everything. Once they learn everything, they will try to push it to, hey, security, this is your thing.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, if we just get head on with these things at the earliest stages, then it will be very easy for us later on.
All right, right. Anyway, thanks, guys. Rahul,
Thank you so much.
Rahul, Ravi,
Thank you.
guys, any questions from you?
Suresh, I have one more question.
Yes, please.
Sarvesh, when we are switching from access control to IAG, do we cover that migration part also in the course?
No, there is nothing called as migration, which is going to be there. It is going to be like a transformation, Raymond. So meaning
SLT.
whenever you, not SLT, to be specific, because if it is like migration happens from, transformation happens from on-premise to on-premise, only SLT will work. So here we are not going to have on-premise to on-premise, so SLT will not work. So what we are going to do is, all your master data, meaning your risk, your controls, your organization, your mitigation, and your functions, and all this master data, you can do a direct transformation, meaning there is one job which you need to write in IAG. You need to connect your on-premise GRC system, and once you run the job, it will automatically get updated and master data will get moved. However, the access request, whatever you have it, whatever the workflows you have it, all this data push is not possible because it's a fresh implementation. So there is nothing called as migration. IAG is going to be a fresh implementation. You need to stop using access control, then you need to start using IAG. That's how it works.
So the data which we are transforming, will it sit in the methodology of the IAG?
Yes, it will sit in the methodology of IAG, and only like whatever the data which I have said only will get moved, meaning only the master data of access control, functions, risk, rule set, mitigation controls. Only those will travel from IAG, from GRC access control to IAG. All other things you need to develop in IAG. You can't move your workflows from GRC to IAG. You can't move your access request from GRC to IAG when you are doing a migration, or like if you stop using GRC after some time.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sarvesh. I'm done.
Ravi, Rahul, there's two Rahul. Any questions from you guys?
I don't have any question. It's just because I'm from SAP IDM background, which is also going to kind of out of market soon, and then mostly I think IAG, GRC, SailPoint from the Microsoft and all that they're taking over this. So how difficult is going to be for me to learn IAG, because I've never been part of this SAP security much.
Okay. Okay. What is your background, Rahul?
IDM.
I'm from SAP IDM.
Yeah,
IDM. Okay. Okay.
I can probably take up that question, Rahul. So you are the best fit candidate for this. So Please don't think like you are like off the topic. You are also a best fit candidate for this because in IDM, like you might have done source transformation, destination transformation. You would have written. You can do the debug of JSON better than all of us. And in terms of like transformation of like connecting to a non-SAP application to an SAP application, connecting to Azure with GRC, you might have done, or doing a HR-driven identity management, what you might have already been doing using SailPoint or like by using IDM with SailPoint. So those are all same use cases is still going to exist in IAG. So you are also a better person or a best person for coming into IAG. So there is nothing that prevents you to come. Only one thing is you may need to learn from ground zero. All of us, we already know security. So for us, it's going to be like from ground second floor or third floor. For you, it will be from ground floor. That's only difference.
Okay, and how this thing is going to help me learning from the ground floor?
You're going to learn from your how it's going to help is it's a good question. So how it's going to help is like in the cloud leap, because the one important functionality which will also get affected down the line is IDM, because IDM may not be there for longer duration because once customer moves out of cloud, IDM does, I mean, move towards cloud from on-premise, IDM may become obsolete. So IPS is going to be the replacement for IDM, and we will be speaking in detail about IPS in almost all of our session. So that way it's going to help you. It can help you in terms of structuring your career in IPS or structuring your career in IAG, both.
And moreover, like a lot of clients can also have on-premise for, but then a lot of other cloud apps like Ariba, SAC, IBP.
Yes.
Yeah. And that way, like both IDM can be there for on-prem, but then also IAG for the cloud.
Yes.
Or later on, if SAP pushes IAG to both on-prem and cloud, then IAG will be the main source. And Ravi, so Sarvesh, so one quick question is, like for the IAG, can it be? Is it also capable of doing risk analysis? You mentioned it is capable of doing risk analysis for SAC, but is it also for IBP?
Yes, it is also for IBP. Yes.
So SAP provides different rule sets for.
No, it does not.
SAC.
SAP does not provide any rule set for IBP. SAP does not provide any rule sets for SAC also. SAP provides rule sets only for few systems. Ariba, SuccessFactors, S/4HANA, and Cloud. For others, we need to develop. If we are doing a risk analysis, we need to develop. SAP does not provide any out-of-box rule set.
Okay.
Thanks. Any other questions from Rahul? There is one more Rahul. Pawan.
Yeah, this is Pawan. Thanks for brief information. And yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, thank you. Rahul? There is one more Rahul. Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for joining the session. And we